everyone! This is a new series I wanted to do where I talk about people in the public eye while also cooking a very average meal for my family. We're going to be talking about good people, bad people, and historical people while I cook something that is very non-glamorous and average. I don't profess to be a cook, but I just wanted to talk about people and cook food for you. So this delightful meatloaf that I call I would do anything for loaf is made with 1 pound of ground meat of your choice, 1 chopped onion, several cloves of minced garlic, 1 egg, 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of breadcrumbs with some Parmesan cheese to the top, and salt and pepper to taste. The person that I chose to speak about today is one of the first people I thought of when I made a list of people who are good and yet still alive today. From my first awareness of her, she was this sweet, wisecracking beautician in Steel Magnolias. And I've since realized the works that she's done for her own home state and the child literacy program are unmatchable. She's a beautiful person inside and out. So let's sit back and talk about Dolly Parton for a little while. Now, Dolly Parton was born a star, and I mean it. She was dirt poor, the 4th of 12 kids, but she shone so brightly, she made her way onward and upward at a tender young age. She was already in a musical family, which was like the type that sang a lot of hymns, like Irish and Old Welsh hymns, and but she really stood out. She started being able to play guitar by the age of 7. She had that spunky way, her sweet little demeanor, and her song was just undeniable. It caused her uncle to start to carry her around to auditions and radio channels and take her for all these different opportunities that she might not have had. And apparently this is when she got her style too. She really loved the town tramp.
Every once in a while we'd get to go to town for whatever the reason. We would be there, and I used to see this woman walking up and down the streets, and she had these piles of yellow hair, and she had red nails, she had high-heel shoes, she had plastic goldfish in the back of her shoes that were floating around in water, and she had tight short skirts, and I thought she was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen. And I remember saying, "Oh, Mama, she is so pretty," and I remember my mama said, "Oh, she's just trash." And I thought, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm going to be trash.
Dolly was just that sort of little local singer who everyone in the community knew. By 10 years old, she was performing on local TV and radio shows in Eastern Tennessee area, and by 13, she was even on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry meeting people like Johnny Cash. She would never forget her upbringing. She said that her daddy was one of the smartest people she knew, even though he didn't know how to read. And she also has this great little song and story, and actually now it's a movie. It's called The Coat of Many Colors. It's really sweet. It's influential for Dolly herself, who had this personal story about being kind of embarrassed of this raggedy little coat her mom made for her. And I think that she loved going back to revisit it. Another thing she said about this time that kind of breaks my heart is that womanhood was a difficult thing to get a grip on in those hills, unless you were a man. Dolly had that voice that was loud, commanding, with a vibrato that knocked you off your seat. In 1966, when she was a fresh-faced baby of 20, she was both married to her sweetheart Carl Dean, and she released her single Dumb Blonde. And it laid the groundwork that she might look fake, but she was 100% real and smart to boot. This brought her to the attention of Porter Wagoner, a country music variety show host who had just lost his former female star and needed the audience to calm him down. They got the brightest little singer-songwriter in the whole business, didn't they? And they held on to Dolly for 7 years. In this time, she worked really closely with Porter and wrote some duets, but she had always intended to have her own show, of course, and to be the star herself. So not only that, she wrote my personal favorite song of hers, Jolene. She also announced she was going to go off on her own. Porter Wagoner, wouldn't you know it, clawed into her contract and tore $1 million away from her just so she could go free. But she did it, and hell did she do it with grace. In 1974, she wrote the hit I Will Always Love You, written about her professional break from Wagoner, and I think it gives him a lot more credit than he deserves. I also thought it was really interesting, something I didn't know. Elvis Presley really wanted that song. I mean, can you imagine him singing I Will Always Love You? Wow. But he had a really stupid manager who insisted on signing half the publishing rights to every Elvis Presley song. It was just standard policy. But Dolly refused, cleverly so.
There is no way you're going to take half a Dolly Parton song away from her, even if you're Elvis. And that's why he never recorded I Will Always Love You. So there, Whitney Houston did it better anyway.
It was 1974 when Dolly got out of the show, and it was a crazy time. She was sharing the charts with ABBA, The Grateful Dead, Queen, Stevie Wonder, but her songwriting never quit. Even though she couldn't quite make it into that pop world, not until she hit gold.
Here you come again.
After that, she was like a machine of pop country hits and a little package of sunshine. She was showing up on Carol Burnett's show, Cher, Barbara Walters' show special, and everybody was loving her adorable little quotable self. In 1977, she had this cute little show called Dolly, and it was like a dream come true where she would be lowered down on a swing singing Love is Like a Butterfly, and then close out every show on a little stump singing I Will Always Love You. I mean, it was so Dolly. I wish it would have lasted more than one season. It was actually really hard on her vocal cords. That was the only reason she stopped. I'm just going to take a second to get saucy and talk about the sauce. It is basically 1 tablespoon of mustard. You got 3 tablespoons of ketchup to 1/3 a cup of brown sugar, basically all mixed up. So Dolly was a solid star, and the world was just catching up. She was winning Grammys at this point and even performed for President Jimmy Carter. But it was really a couple of talented female leads that would come along and elevate things for her. In 1981, the dawn of a new decade, 9 to 5 was that perfect thing that launched Dolly into another orbit. She was sharing the screen with people like Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, and she wrote a total banger with her fingernails. Yeah.
Working 9 to 5. But you gotta have acrylic nails. I always say you gotta have falsies.
The song got her an Oscar nomination. Yes, she was on the road to an EGOT. Yes. In 1982, she was in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, which grossed a clean 69 million worldwide. I didn't do that. Then she stepped right into her 1983 chart topper with the gambler himself, Kenny Rogers, in Islands in the Stream. Can you imagine having 3 years like that? I mean, this woman was handling success like I handle an Xbox controller, and she was still writing music the whole time. You got to spread out your sauces. Spread out your sauce on your meatloaf. Career-wise, it might have looked like in the mid-80s she had a little bit of a slowdown, but she really did not. What she was doing was joining in with the owners of a theme park right in that same little hometown she grew up in, Pigeon Forge. Turned it into Dollywood, the dreamiest, friendliest little park in the US, and totally brimming with world-class roller coasters. It's really a charming park filled with secret theming, annual events, and employees that are treated more like family. They stick around for like 30... Now, going back to 1986, she also established the Dollywood Foundation at this time. As you can tell with her father, she's personally attached to the literacy programs. Back in those days, she began sending out 1 book every month when a child was born in that state, the state of Tennessee, all the way up till when they hit kindergarten. So 1 book a month for free, all the way up to kindergarten. Now, she does it indiscriminatively. She just sends it out to any kids who want them. By now, she's probably sent out about 250 million books, and she's striving to bring the movement all across the world. Right now, she's in Canada, UK, Ireland, and Australia, while still maintaining that she's a champion for anybody who feels a little different. She was freshly permed, crisply styled, and singing with Columbia Records by the late 80s. In 1989, the world got this gem,
There is no such thing as natural beauty.
You remember that, or we're all out of a job. Well, just look at me now. It takes some effort to look like this.
Oh, I can see that.
And it made a bundle. She popped up in several TV movies over the next few years and then made Straight Talk with James Woods. I'd really like for her to make a sequel called Gay Talk, but maybe that's a little trite. Although Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt joined with her to create Trio and release it to critical acclaim, there was this wave of contemporary country that came in the 90s that kind of dampened her reign over the country music charts. I know who it is. I'm not saying names. Shania. Dolly did manage to keep her head above the water. For one thing, when Bodyguard came out in 91, she banked cash. I mean, this was her biggest windfall yet. She wasn't just a star, she was the queen of an empire. In the mid-90s, Dolly was a constant presence in the country music scene, collabing with two remarkable ladies yet again, Loretta Lynn and Tammy Wynette, to release another album that went gold. She really seemed to lean into her bluegrass roots in these days and lent herself to the AIDS benefit from this like red hot and country sort of thing that was going on, I remember. This bluegrass boom meshed well with her voice, and she strode right into the millennium on the top of her game. One of the wealthiest country music stars in the entire United States. I mean, this was when she got her fingers in production companies, and she got to be parts of television shows like Buffy, for example. She showed up on sitcoms throughout the 90s, of course, with her big, beautiful personality. And her good friend, Billy Ray Cyrus, had his daughter, Destiny, made her goddaughter, which was another little natural-born talent who would become Miley Cyrus. When Dolly wrote the soundtrack for Transamerica, she did receive death threats from people, but this was like 2008 and things were actually kind of tumultuous. I know that seems kind of sweet now and quaint, but she would stand up for people like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and Miley when she really started to be kind of crazy. She really took to the touring life too. She was still married to Carl since 1966 and went on the road in 2016 to revive all her old hits. She had great success. When one of her little nieces had leukemia, Dolly became closely involved with the Vanderbilt University of Medicine. And after the girl was successfully treated, Dolly kept close. In 2020, she made $1 million donation to them with their drive to create the vaccine. And she wrote this little banger, which is so adorable, to get everybody out there and get their shots.
Vaccine, 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 vaccine. I'm begging of you, please don't hesitate. Vaccine, 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 vaccine. 'Cause once you're dead, then that's a bit too late.
Dolly has achieved commercial success over and over again, reinventing herself without ever having to change herself. And I think that's what makes her so special. Her giant hair and boobs are metaphoric to her brain and heart, and she's not afraid to tell you that.
Anything you can do to help a young'un, it's a good thing to do. I think if you're in a position to help as a celebrity, you should do anything that you can, whether it's for the hurricane victims or whatever. It's like you're in a position to help, and you should.
Dolly's charitable work is not written about very much. This is not something she goes out and hires a publicist to broadcast. And believe me, there's a lot of things that she's done to help people that will never be written about or known about.
Sometimes it's the closest friends who have the most need. Years after leaving his show, Dolly found out that Porter Wagoner was facing financial troubles and assisted by purchasing over 200 of his songs. Then in 2004, Dolly offered Porter an even greater gift by giving his music library back to him free of charge, a gesture worth well over $1 million.
So she may look like town trash, but she's that classy lady you can't afford. She's 75, gorgeous, and still going strong, and along with this Meatloaf, she is a good thing in this world. By the way, I totally burnt those little toasts into bricks, and the meat was just a little bit too dry. I see you next time.